two major unions in the city of Toronto, Local 416 and 79, which announced on Friday that the union had requested a no board report, a measure that could put them in a strike position in as little as 3 weeks. So the president of Local 79, Nas Yadollahi, joins us right now. Nas, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for having us.
Did you watch that press conference from the city of Toronto? I'm guessing that you have better information than the 20 minutes that they talked to the reporters, but what were your thoughts on the way they communicated to the people of Toronto on where they are with your union?
I mean, there's no surprises here from where we're concerned. They're going to tell the people of Toronto what they want to tell them. What they're not going to tell them is the truth. They're not going to tell them what is actually happening at the negotiating table. What they're not going to tell them is that they have been very, very slow at the table. They have not been responsive. And, you know, while the city claims that they've been available 7 days a week, that's just not the case. And you know, I think we need to be mindful of who is putting out a message and how they're putting it out. And the members of the public deserve to know the truth. So, you know, I think people should take whatever the city manager is saying with a grain of salt here.
Okay. The truth usually is that when Local 416 gets a deal, Local 79 signs on and is happy with the deal. And that's what I guess the city assumed would happen this year. First of all, could you say whether or not usually in any other year that is true? When 79 says it's usually, when 416 signs, it's usually rubber stamped by Local 79.
Certainly that's been the pattern. And I think it's also been a pattern of low wages that has resulted in a crisis of retention and recruitment. And at some point, one or both of the parties have to recognize that something has to be done differently. And that is not to say that, you know, the contract that Local 416 negotiated and ultimately ratified was what they deemed to be to the best interest and for the betterment of their membership and the services that they provide. And it just is not going to be the case for Local 79. Okay.
I think what would be helpful for our listeners right now is if you could break down the duties for 416 and 79. What particularly is the purview of your local?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. We cover over 45 divisions and branches. So the water that comes out of people's taps that's assured to be clean is done by Local 79 workers. Shelters, long-term care homes, child care centers, community centers. We have the permits, planners, public health nurses, the ambulance communication center. I mean, it would be a very, very long interview, but we have over 30,000 members who work across 45 plus divisions. Okay.
The city says that a significant investment in recreation staff to ensure that 92% of part-time recreation hours will be paid more than minimum wage. Last year, 43% of recreation hours paid minimum wage. So what about that?
I think what they're not telling you is that they're increasing it by 20 cents and that minimum wage is going up in October anyways by 40 cents. So that's what they're not telling you. What they're also not telling you is that they don't want the general wage increase, whatever it lands at, to apply to minimum wage workers who, I think it's important to mention, don't get paid benefits, vacation, or sick time. So all of the money that they have to use for those things comes out of pocket as well. And this is where the city is being dishonest about the information that they're putting out.
Are all those people working full-time hours to qualify for benefits?
Well, that's another really good question, because the way that the city allows them to qualify for benefits is different than the rest of the membership. So they have to qualify over 1,400 hours every year to be able to qualify for benefits, where this is not the case for the rest of the workers in the city of Toronto. So there's almost a two-tier system in terms of how they treat part-time recreation workers, who, by the way, are the people who are going to be taking care of your kids when they are in summer and March break camps, right? That's not, like, when you think about the work that these people do, it's not minimum wage work. I don't think anyone should be doing
listen, I don't want to turn out to be that guy, but are some of those positions not entry-level kind of positions?
Look, there's entry-level positions everywhere. right? And what I'm suggesting is minimum wage is not the standard in which the City of Toronto should be upholding at any level. And what I'm also saying is that these are the people that are taking care of people's children, which is, I would say, our most precious cargo, right? And I don't think that's minimum wage work. And I think the city needs to start acting like the largest municipality in the country and start setting the bar instead of following other much smaller municipalities and trailing them and really struggling to keep workers who are leaving the City of Toronto to go to other smaller municipalities who pay more and, frankly, treat their workers with much more respect and regard.
If there is isn't that part of the economy of trying to fill these positions, in that if people leave, there are plenty of people behind them who are willing to take those jobs?
Well, I would say that the recruitment and retention crisis that the city is experiencing says otherwise, and people are not flocking to the City of Toronto for work any longer. And, 500 vacancies in long-term care, like, what are we talking about here? Programs are constantly being canceled in recreation because of staffing problems and staffing shortages. We have over 1,400 vacancies across the City of Toronto. 911 ambulance dispatchers.
Yep.
How could you not staff an ambulance call center where people are not having to wait extensive times on the phone to get critical care? These are things that impact every single Torontonian. The
city says that they've offered to discuss special wage adjustments for certain positions. What positions have they been willing to do that on?
They have not offered to discuss anything. Those were proposals that we put forward for special classifications, and they're holding it hostage. They have not come to the table and talked about it, and we have asked them as late as Tuesday when we met with them. We asked them to start talking about those adjustments, and they refused to.
If our listeners right now are nodding their heads saying an affordability crisis, they essentially agree with what you're saying. But at the same time, the city has decided for the working class people of this city who might be able to own a home but still can't afford the almost $300 extra a year, the city has said, hey, we've already built in this raise into the budget, but if you're asking for more, a lot of our listeners would say we can't afford that.
I would imagine that if the city has built it into their budget, then they have built it adequately, right? And also that when we
But they built into the budget assuming that you guys were going to sign on to the same deal, the 416, no?
I mean, if that's what they've done, then they haven't done their due diligence.
Do you think in 3 weeks we're looking at a strike right now?
I think that is going to be entirely up to the City of Toronto. If they come to the table and they want to negotiate a fair contract, we can avoid a strike. If they choose to do otherwise, then yes, we are looking at a strike.
What would you say, for our listeners, again, is the main difference between when 79 would basically, rubber stamp the deal that 416 got? What is the difference this year?
I think the difference is that we are actually looking at raising the quality of the services that the City of Toronto offers back to the levels that it was over a decade ago. The decline has been due to the fact that the city has not paid workers enough to be able to retain them, and now they can't even recruit them. So our attempt is actually to fix the disaster and the crises that the city has been responsible for creating.
Nas, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.